Hi, this is Drew Thomason from Dell. Today I'm going to show you the migration of a virtual machine running on a PowerMax from VMware to OpenShift. We're going to use the migration toolkit for virtualization from Red Hat. We'll do a software-based first, and then we'll do a comparison with the new feature which is called offload, and that's a tech preview, so it's not a GA product. So as part of our setup here for the toolkit, we have to have providers. Our host is the OpenShift provider, and then the vCenter is where we're going to pull our VM from. I've set up a VDDK init image. This is how you do a software-based copy. As far as the vCenter itself, there's two ESXi hosts. We're going to be using the 1040 host. And then for our virtual machine, there's 17 different machines running on these two hosts. The one that we're concerned with is 2122. This is a 100 gig virtual machine. The data is completely full on the operating system, so it's going to copy a full 100 gig. And it lives on that data store. 1473 is the SID of the PowerMax. So the way that we do the migration is through a migration plan. So we'll set up a name here. Our source is going to be the vCenter and then the target's OpenShift. We're going to put this in the OpenShift MTV namespace. This is where our objects are. We'll go grab that virtual machine. Now you'll see there's a couple of warnings next to it. One is indicating because it's not running, we can't bring the IP over. And the other one is just saying that OpenShift doesn't have anything like DRS. Neither of those prevent our migration. We'll do a new network map. We're just going to do the default network, but if you had something else set up, external ones, you can use those too. For our storage map, we have to tell OpenShift where it's going to put the target, and the target's going to be on that 1473 array, so we want to pick the right storage class here. And we're not going to do anything with the offload. That'll be the second migration. The cold migration, we want to uncheck that IP box or we'll get warnings. Skip to review, and we'll create the plan. So once the plan gets created, the migration status will allow us to start. And here you can watch the migration. It'll do an initialization. It'll then create the disk and present it to the OpenShift environment. And then it will do the image conversion and then copy the data. You can watch the disk transfer as it moves data along. If you come out and look at ESX top, you can see it pulling reads off of the data store. So it averages about 600 reads per second. Now, obviously, this video skips time along because the software copy does take a long time. So you'll see that we're going to be copying data quite quickly, even though it's not happening that quickly in real life. So up to 25 gig, 30, and we'll go back and just check ESX top again. I just want to show you that it's consistent. It'll do a consistent amount of reads throughout the entire migration. And here we're going to be coming to completion. So it completed. It took 22 minutes. If you look there, 6:49 to 7:11. And we'll go and see that the virtual machine is underneath the namespace and it's available. And it's set to complete here. So now with the software base done, we'll now move over to do the offload. So to do the offload, we've got to delete the virtual machine first because we're going to be copying over the same one again. So we'll get rid of that And we'll also archive the migration plan just to get it out of the way. So now we'll repeat this process to create the offload migration plan. The first thing I want to point out is in order to do the migration, it requires a VIB that Red Hat installs. It will do this the first time you run a migration for just one time. If you don't want it to install the VIB, you can actually do it another way through SSH, and that's in the README, which you can find on GitHub. So here, mine's already installed, and first thing we're going to check is Xcopy is enabled. So this is an offload, so we want to make sure Xcopy is enabled. So let's create our plan. We'll call this one offload. Same options here. Basically, we're going to do the same thing and just make that one change when we get to the storage mapping. So 2122 was the virtual machine. We'll do the same default network. And here for the storage map, we're going to choose the same storage class because that's the one that is on our array. And now we're going to expand here our offload. So this is a tech preview, as I said. It's not designed for production. Basically they can't be held responsible for anything that goes wrong. So just use it in a test environment. The offload plugin is called Xcopy, even though it may not use Xcopy. As you know, PowerFlex doesn't use Xcopy. This is the secret that you'll have to create, which I talk about in the blog. And then Dell PowerMax is our storage product. And we'll let it default name. Again, the cold migration, we'll uncheck the IPs, and then we're going to skip to the review. So we'll wait for this to become available, and then we'll start the process. Now this one is a little bit different because it's not immediately going to create the device because the device actually doesn't get presented to OpenShift, it gets presented to VMware. So here our disk allocation is going to remain 0 of 1. But if we go out to ESX top, we'll be able to catch when it starts doing the copy. Because for offload, it will never show you what the disk transfer amount is. Oh, we have an error though. What could this be? So here we failed. Let's go check the logs of the populator. So here, look for the one most recent. So we have one there that was 57 seconds. So that must be the one we want to look at. So we open up this log files here. And right at the bottom, we've got this error. Failed to clone disk timeout. This is the error you get when you try to do a VM KFS clone because we have a fix for an Xcopy issue. So because of that, you can't use Xcopy. So we need to turn it off. So turn off Xcopy. So that is the caveat for offloading on the PowerMax. Is you can't have Xcopy running. So let's just restart it. You don't have to create a new plan or anything, just restart the one that was there. And we'll initialize again. Again, we're not going to see a disk allocation here, but let's go to ESX top to see whether or not it's actually succeeded this time. And here, look at the difference in performance. So we're getting 35,000 reads and writes because now you can see it's writing to the device because it presented it to VMware. So it's doing a copy on the host, which as you can see is a lot faster. In fact, it's so fast, this only takes a couple of minutes. Now remember, Xcopy is not being used. This is just copying on the host, but it's localized. So it's converted the file here. Now it's going to present the disk over to OpenShift, and it completes. And this is the only time it'll show you now that it's copied all the data. It doesn't show you to the very end. And if we go out, our virtual machine is available, and our migration's done.